Hi everyone, and welcome to the Just-in-Time Customized Corrugated Packaging webinar. We have a lot of really great things to share with you today, so thank you for joining us and tuning in. And as promised, today we'll be sharing the new and exciting trends in today's e-commerce boom for corrugated packaging, the impact personalization has with consumers, how to affordably print packaging in-house to reduce labor and material costs, and share with you a success story that is of a company that is currently taking advantage of it all and continues to see a steady sales growth. So let's go ahead and begin. My name is Alicia, and I am very excited to be with you guys all here today. I'll be sharing the trends in e-commerce and packaging from a marketing perspective, of course, but speaking to most of the content today will be corrugating packaging expert, Mark Swansea. Would you like to say hello, Mark?
Yes, Alicia, thank you. As Alicia, we just appreciate everybody tuning in, and we hope we can educate you and answer some questions for you. And again, just thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it then. And I think the perfect place to start is by understanding where people are buying their products from, and it's almost entirely online. E-commerce is the way people prefer their purchasing patterns, and that should really come as no surprise to all of you. I'm sure you guys have all ordered something online too. Online shopping is expanding 3 times higher than the retail industry in general, and with online retail estimated to grow 8 to 12% in just the next year alone. So with less people at the storefront, companies need to start capitalizing on the first physical connection a customer has with their brand. And that really starts with the packaging. So let's think about that for a moment. When a shipped box is sitting on a buyer's doorstep, what does it look like to them? What emotion does it invoke? How are you taking advantage of personalizing messages to foster a closer relationship with your consumers? You know, personalization in your packaging is so important in this e-commerce boom. And that's really going to be the focus of today. You know, small and mid-sized manufacturers are in a unique position to meet this demand and are currently experiencing unprecedented growth, which is really huge. These companies have seen a 15% increase in e-commerce growth, and this is the first time that these small, mid and sized manufacturers have outgrown their much larger competitors. And that's really because, unlike large manufacturers that produce large volumes of the same products, smaller manufacturers are able to take advantage of that personalization and can really customize their products in small quantities, which really means, you know, they have less productivity, and it allows them to take advantage in the current customized packaging trends. So let's talk about some of those trends. Today's consumers expect this unboxing experience. You know, think of a package you get from, or when you're opening up your new Apple iPhone, you know, you take the lid off and it's supposed to be this whole levitating experience that Apple does just for you. So what are you doing to meet your consumers' expectations? You know, how are your consumers unboxing your product? Are you connecting with them? Are you providing with them a message that is really relevant to them? And more importantly, this is your opportunity to apply your brand awareness on the outside of your box. So really taking advantage of every empty space possible. And that really leads us into this, your brand's perception. So your brand perception is what, you know, will have your customers coming back for more. And that's really what you want. Your packaging must positively represent the brand and create a productive relationship with the consumer. And as you can see in this graph here on the screen, the bars in pink represent consumers who believe the more personalized packaging, the better. And why? Because it gets them excited. You know, when they see your box, when they see your box on their doorstep, you want them to be excited. You want your consumers, you know, to be excited when they open their door and they see that box on their doorstep. And in the same report, it also found that 40% of consumers said the use of branded or gift-like packaging affects their overall perception of the company. So really, I mean, what is your box saying about your company too? Are you professional? Are you trying to be maybe more fun and colorful? You know, and to go along with that, packaging also plays a role in fostering loyalty. So 40% of the same consumers said that they are likely to purchase from a company that offered a gift-like personalized package. and this is up 29% from just 2015 alone. So the goal is to resonate a positive message for loyalty because you want your consumers to come back for more and again and again and again. So maybe when you think about these uniquely branded and personalized packages, what comes to mind? What companies are you thinking about? Maybe companies like Blue Apron and BarkBox. You know, there are two companies that are really succeeding at this gift-like experience. Their packaging is engaging with their consumers, and they also do create a higher quality experience and a sense of increased value. But more importantly, it increases their brand awareness too. So, and you know, those should really be at top of mind when you're thinking about your packaging. But something really interesting to also note, there's this whole silent factor in this unboxing experience, and that's social media. You know, consumers are sharing their unboxing experiences on social media for their friends and family to see. So, InFact.com recently reported that 39% of online shoppers shared a product image or video on social media. And when you think about it, that's really free word of mouth marketing. I mean, what more could you possibly want? They're showing your product and they're showing why they liked it and probably why they're going to buy from you again. So now you have a likely returning customer and maybe even a new one with their friend or family, you know, that recommendation. So with social media emerging as a secret factor and the emergence of personalized messaging, companies can also consider using every inch of real estate on their packaging and maybe even open up the possibility of partnering with third-party companies. So fulfillment centers and service providers can turn shipping containers into an additional profit center. You know, a perfect example of this are pizza boxes. Think about the last time you ordered a pizza. You know, whether it be on a local level, you might see an ad for your local farmer's market, probably where the vegetables came from. Or maybe if it's on a national scale, maybe it's a movie ad. So really start to think about how you can take advantage of every small space on your packaging. Okay, and that really ends my part of the webinar today. So I'll go ahead and hand this over to Mark. But definitely if you have any questions, go ahead and submit them now as well. We'll definitely get those answered. Mark, are you ready to kind of go ahead and get started here?
I am. Thank you so much, Alicia. I am going to do my screen. So I want to start out with why would manufacturers or fulfillment centers want to digitally print packaging? And before I go over these bullet points in this, I kind of want to reiterate some of the things that Alicia alluded to in the branding and the growth and all of that. E-commerce has been a real bright spot, obviously, for the corrugated market for the last 10 years or so as it's grown and grown and grown. And over the last 10 years, e-commerce is 40 times larger than it was 10 years ago. Amazon's corrugated box consumption is growing at the rate of about 30% a year. So you can see where the packaging and the use of a corrugated box is becoming more and more significant. And currently, e-commerce is only about 8% of total retail sales. So there's nowhere for it to go really except for up. And a lot of fulfillment centers who have adopted, that we've talked to, that have adopted digital print to offer that as a value-added service to their existing customers are adding, you know, anywhere from a 25% to a 85% premium, you know, to their services by offering this customized on-demand print for their customers' packaging. And again, on some of those, it's 4-color and it's images and stuff like that, and maybe that requires, you know, more cost and more of a premium. And then there's in certain cases where the customer, yeah, they've got a brown box, but they just want a barcode on it, or they just want lot number manufacturing, or something like that, variable data. So it's not always about 4-color, but it is about getting last minute on demand the information that you need on the box when you need it, and not having to pre-order and all of those types of things. So a lot of neat little factors around what's helping digital print become successful. So why do they want to print? Well, currently, if you want to produce a custom product in small quantities that have less predictability, and really create a higher number of SKUs, that's not easily done today. So if that's what customers want, and that is what's being demanded of them today, more SKUs, more personalization, more customization, so the actual packaging has lower volumes. Well, the way that's been done in the past, and it's still being done, is standard flexographic presses are used to print corrugated boxes. And they're not really very efficient for low volume or customized printing. Now, can you print one box with a flexographic press? Yes. But obviously it's not very efficient and cost effective because it could take 30 or 40 minutes to set up the press, get it all set up for this box, then you got to run some boxes, so there's waste, and now you print your box. So it's very time consuming. In digital, you basically send an image to the printer, it prints the box, no waste, no setup, so on and so forth. So flexographic presses, another drawback is those costly plates. The fact that they are labor intensive to get ready and then to clean up after that job and get ready for the next job. Therefore, they typically require large minimum orders and long lead times. And again, it's not to say that that technology is not good. It's excellent, but it's really good for printing a lot of the same thing over and over again, and it's very fast. I mean, there's a lot of machines printing 5,000 to 10,000 boxes an hour and even more, up to 20,000 boxes an hour. So if you're printing a lot of a certain type of packaging, there's really no better way to do it. And flexographic presses and that technology is not going away anytime soon. And we're not trying to say digital printing is going to replace analog flexographic presses. We're saying it's complementary and an additional service and a way of printing that you ought to add alongside your analog equipment. So printing digitally in-house allows the manufacturer fulfillment center to be more efficient, control their inventory, reduce costs in the supply chain, and in the case, like I said, these fulfillment centers going back to their customers and offering value-added print, it's creating a new revenue stream for them. So the next thing is how did we accomplish this? Well, when most people think about inkjet, they think it's kind of slow. They see the head going back and forth. Well, about 5 years ago, a company called Memjet introduced a technology where it's a print bar. So the bar expands across the print area, and the media flows under it, and so it prints all in one pass. So it's very, very quick. In the case of Memjet's technology, it prints at up to 12 inches a second at 1,600 DPI. So there's really nothing else on the market like this. And so when we first saw this technology, we were trying to look for ways and areas that it would fit and allow people to do something that they currently couldn't do today. And that, we thought, was in the area of corrugated packaging would be a great market. So let's look at this. Here's single pass technology and how it can transform a labeled package. What you're typically going to see out there today and for the last 50 years is a corrugated craft box, and you can see the little icons, the umbrella, don't get it wet, this side up, don't break, those types of things. They're typically pre-printed on the box, so it's ordered that way. Now the customer's going to, in this case, put an alternator inside it, and they want somebody to know that, so they have labels printed up. And so now they've got to stock that label, order that label, and then pay somebody to put it on. And then in this particular case, the label's torn a little bit, and in the upper right-hand corner, it's peeling. And that's another problem with labels. They don't always stick. They curl depending on how long they're in the warehouse or what type of environment they're in, whether it's wet, cold, humid, or whatever. And typically, because of the labor and the cost of labels, and not that labels isn't a good way to enhance your packaging, it's just that due to that cost and labor, the labels are typically on one or two sides, but not all four sides. So if you look at the box on the right, you've now got 4-color on the box. You've got a lot more information, and the picture of the alternator is on the side, it's up on the top, and you can choose to print whatever you want, but if you want all four sides, including the top and the bottom, you could print all of that and literally do that in a matter of seconds. So our particular product is the Excelagraphix 4800. And so what is it? It's a 48-inch wide flatbed inkjet printer using the Memjet technology. So we designed it to print directly to craft, model white, and bleach white corrugated, none of which are coated, just the uncoated stock that you see most plants making and converting for customers. So what makes the printer unique? One is the speed. There's really nothing anywhere in this price range for this size, format, and everything at this speed for the price that we're selling it at. And fast is we're doing about 416 sheets an hour, and if the box has already been folded and glued, you kind of cut that number in half to 208. So as you can see, that speed is nowhere near Flexo. But if you only need a couple of hundred or even 2,000, you can do that in a very short period of time at that rate. It's a very small footprint. It's extremely user-friendly with the software that's included in it and everything. And here's a picture of some boxes, you know, on a shelf. So look at the different colors and everything. So now, if you want to know if you've got a certain thing in stock, you can see these colors from across the warehouse or the room. And so if you looked over there and you didn't see the color you needed, then you know you were out or whatever. So, you know, just another neat little feature of changing the images on your boxes and getting it more specific. How does Excelagraphix work? It works a lot like a desktop printer. So you've got PDF artwork or, you know, a file, graphic file, and you send it to the software. You know, you pull it into the RIP. In this particular case, we call it IQ. And then you set up your job. So depending on the thickness of the corrugated, the width, the size, and all of that, you set up the printer or set up the file of the job in the software, and then you just say print, and you've got to feed their exact, you know, the right size box. So the sheets are fed into the printer on one side, and you literally see them come out the other. And a 2x4 sheet, depending on which orientation you print it, whether 2 feet first or 4 feet first, it's going to print in 2 to 4 seconds. So at the bottom, it's as simple as you've got a file, you send it to the software, and then the software sends it to the printer, and you feed the right box, and your image is printed on the box. So as you can see, there's no printing plates, no downtime between jobs, no getting the press ready, so on and so forth, and it literally does print in seconds. So what's a typical digital workflow if you're not used to that? In this particular case, these are stock boxes, already folded and glued RSCs, different sizes sitting on a shelf. So this printer could literally be near the back door on the shipping dock, and the people get an order, your inventory people get an order, they go pull the product, they know what box to ship that product in, they go pull the box, and they print whatever needs to be printed on the box for that particular product, and then you, of course, put the packing materials in the box and the product in the box, tape it up, put a label on it, and ship it out. So really, very short process. Another thing that's big in the industry now is due to all this e-commerce and on-demand, and then another thing is, you know, shipping rates is huge. You know, you want to keep that shipping cost down. So a couple of years ago, UPS and FedEx went to dim weight. So customers tried to inventory as few boxes as possible. So even if you wanted a coffee cup, it wasn't a pretty big box. You just filled it with peanuts, and it was based on weight. Well, now that may weigh a pound, but if you use a box that dims out at 10 pounds, then your freight bill is going to be at 10 pounds, not 1 pound. So now there's companies creating equipment, which is the photo in the bottom left, that actually allows a manufacturer, fulfillment center, or whatever, actually make their boxes on demand the exact size they need it when they need it. So in this particular case, you make the box you need, then you print the box you need, and we've already talked about how quick that is. Then you fold and glue the box. Now you put your packing materials and your product in it, label it up, and ship it out the door. So pretty quick, pretty easy. What type of businesses benefit from the digital packaging? Manufacturers, for one, who have a high number of SKUs which are produced and shipped in lower volumes. So again, we're not saying a manufacturer, if they're shipping out 10 or 50,000 of a certain product and the box can look the same, you would still use analog presses for that. But if you got SKUs where you ship a couple of hundred a month or even less than 100, maybe even a year, and you want your packaging to look similar to your higher volume stuff, then you may want to digitally print those so that there's a consistency and a quality and a professionalism, you know, across your entire product line. Fulfillment centers, we've kind of already touched on this. What fulfillment centers can do for companies is create branding and just-in-time information, and so they don't have to do large quantities. The fulfillment center can handle those smaller quantities. Let's take a microbrewery, for instance. They could order their boxes based on, hey, we made this beer. We don't know how popular it's going to be. We only have 1,000 bottles, and we put 25 to a box, so we only need like 50 boxes. who really wants to do that? And the beer was just made. They want to get it in a box. They want it to look professional when they take it out to bars and restaurants. And there's really no other way to do that than with digital printing. Flexo wouldn't want to do 50 boxes, and if they did, they would work it in over the next few weeks, and then the boxes would probably be cost prohibitive. Corrugated suppliers want to complement their analog presses as somebody else who would want to add full color printing services to their customers. Converters would use the digital to offer low volume orders, avoiding overruns, storage of inventory, and costly downtime between jobs. So in this particular case, here's the analog press printing 20,000 boxes an hour, and you might want to have this digital printer off to the side for when your customer says, hey, we're out of boxes and we only need 300 more. Well, instead of gearing those up on an analog flexographic press, you could just do it on the digital, and that way, you don't take the larger, faster running press that would be much more efficient running larger jobs down to do such a short run. So another thing would be, obviously, we've talked about retailers and e-businesses, which require variable data, versioning, customer personalized messaging, whether it be inside the box or outside the box. These are companies that ship their products, and they require short lead times, fast turnaround. The graphics and the box sizes and all of the different types of information is really changing on a regular basis, and their requests for these are usually just in time with no minimum quantities. And there's just really no other cost-effective way to do that than using a digital print system or digital print solution. This next slide, and I kind of messed up there, is a case study. So here's a real manufacturer who uses a digital printer. They had hundreds of SKUs that they didn't ship very many of. And so that was just a brown box with a label on it. And their high volume was professionally printed, 4-color boxes and everything. Well, they sell through distribution. And a lot of their distributors said these other things are not selling because the packaging is not good enough to put out on the shelf. And you're losing that brand and everything. And then another thing is we want our name on it. So it's really hard when a distributor only buys a few of their products each month to make boxes just for them. So how do we handle all of those requests, whether it's for our distributors or a low volume SKU? They started using labels, and that solved their problem. But then as their product line expanded and they picked up even more distributors and the information changed even more, it really became labels were costing more money, going to bigger boxes, more people to apply those labels, and then they were having to inventory labels in advance and all of those types of things. And so the process just become a little more labor intensive, but it did improve their quality. So this particular customer looked at digital printing, and as she says here, now she can print 130 or 800 boxes as needed, and they can print everything they need on the box. The co-branding for the distributor, if something changed, whether it's installation instructions or certain parts or whatever's in the box, all that can be changed on the fly as the manufacturing process changes. And so here, the person at this company is just basically saying that it was delivered and they were printing their own boxes at the end of the day. And we'll talk about how easy it is to use the printer and everything, but they really integrated into their business very seamlessly. And again, this is an operation where the printer literally sits in the warehouse near the back door, and so as product orders come in, they print the box to put the product in it, and it goes out the door with a shipping label on it. So let's compare what they were doing. Before the digital printer from Xante, All Sports was throwing out many of their labels due to SKU changes, rebranding. Some of the labels were getting, they were curling up, and, all of these types of things from just being stored so long. So with the Excelagraphix, all of that kind of went away because they're printing all of this information as they need it directly on the box each and every day. So there is no waste, there is no inventory of items, there is no labor of applying, labels to the box. Labels were printed at 720 DPI before, and as we've said, very labor intensive to apply, especially the larger size boxes and everything, and wrapping labels around the box. It was kind of tedious, and you wanted to make sure you got all the air bubbles and the wrinkles out and everything. So with Excelagraphix, you're basically doubling resolution, and by printing directly to the box, you're eliminating all, the application of the labels and the storing of the labels and the labor costs and everything. Also, All Sports was stocking a wide variety of pre-cut label stock, but also boxes for the hundreds of SKUs and everything. So now they went to a small number of corrugated boxes, not a one-size-fits-all, but they went from like 300 or 400 different boxes down to about 50 boxes. And now from those 50 boxes, they can literally print whatever they need to on those boxes and get it as close as they can to the size of the product and everything to reduce their shipping costs and everything. Just a quick slide on by doing using an inkjet printer that prints much slower, very high, good quality, but prints much slower. They were printing about 18 prints an hour, whereas they are able to print about 325 boxes an hour with all the information they have on it, without the labor of applying the labels and everything. So, higher quality, faster production, and lower cost. And so you can see the cost here. It was about $2.91 versus 52 cents to print the same information on the box versus the labor and the cost of the labels to applying it on your left. So in certain cases, All Sports was saying that printing directly to the box was saving them up to 75% over printing labels and applying those. So quite a cost savings. And again, just finishing kind of a post-print application. There's less waste, less finishing work, things of that nature, printing digitally. And if you look at it, I think I would rather receive the box on the right versus a craft box with a label just on one side. So, and if I was a distributor, I'd want to sell the box on the right with, with the 4-color and my name on it. The results. Product boxes are now displayed in distributor showrooms because she improved the professional looking and branding of the products. There was less manual intervention needed to complete the product shipments because now they weren't having to stock labels, apply labels, things of that nature. They just pull the box, which we're going to have to do anyway, to put the product in and print it directly to the box and put all the relevant information on it, including manuals. So All Sports manufacturers reduced their inventory, their box, the amount of space it took, plus the actual number of boxes, which all had minimum orders, and so some of the boxes would literally last a year, and so they had to tie up that money and create a space to store them for up to a year. Another case study, this is more of a fulfillment. This is not a manufacturer. This is a fulfillment company who had lots of different customers. And one of their customers was Rochester Midland Corporation, who was labeling the corrugated boxes in-house, creating the same inefficiencies and challenges that All Sports was saying. So what was the customer looking for? They were looking to reduce the lead time. They were looking to reduce the amount of labor, the amount of time it took to apply the labels, storing the labels, getting, in this case, they were saying 8,000 boxes and storing them in advance. It took 5,000 square feet to actually manually apply the labels and lay all this out and keep it all separated before shipping and everything. So a very typical process in the way most people are doing it and have done it for a long time. Their solution. So what they really wanted to do was order only what they needed when they needed it. So that's what the fulfillment center was able to do for them. They eliminated the manual labeling process and labor costs, and they would print exactly the number of boxes that they needed for the next 5 days. And the next thing they wanted to do is they wanted in each case to have a lot code and be able to coordinate the supply chain. So these were the things they were looking for. And so the benefits are on the right-hand side here. So we eliminated the labeling process and labor costs. We eliminated the excess and obsolete inventory. No more printing plate costs for the different labels they did. No minimum order quantities. And then basically 0 defects. There's no throwing away. You might have a bad box here or there, but if you order 5,000 labels and if you've used 3,000 and now something changes, you're throwing the other 2,000 labels away. So those are the types of things that we're talking about. The results, as you can see here, one of the purchasing managers said they used to receive these deliveries of over 8,000. They had 120 different product labels. They were housed in 5 different storage locations. Labels were then slid to the box, and it took approximately 5,000 square feet to do this. So on the left, not a bad-looking box, craft, very typical. Got a 4-color label there, but that label was only on 2 sides of the box. So it was possible for this box to sit on the shelf, and you didn't know what was inside unless you walked up, pulled the box out, and turned it so you could see the label. As you can see on the right, they're printing a label that matches the box for the container of the product, But if you look to the left on the box, there's printing down that side, there's printing on the front, and basically they're printing all four sides of the box. So no matter how somebody puts this on the shelf, they're going to know what the company name is, they're going to know what the product is, and the more specifics of the product. Here's where it's different color coded, and the customer is talking about how their product stands out against competitors, like a flashlight in a dark room, against a sea of craft shipping boxes. Theirs are white with color graphics, and now the customers can recognize their product over others across the warehouse, and that's what I was talking about earlier. So just some nice added features in addition to having your branding and all the information you need right on the outside of the box as you need it. So the value proposition, what is that? I would say that first, digital printing is a disruptive technology. You can print a box today, you could print a box yesterday, but now what digital printing allows you to do is it's how you can print the box, it's when you can print the box, and where you can print the box. And the way it's been done in the past, you couldn't print your box right next to where the product is, and it's going to go out the back door. With digital printing, you can literally have the product, the package, and the printer in very close proximity. So as you pull the product off the shelf, you print the box, you put it in the box, you put a shipping label, and it goes out. And it's never really been able to be done that way, that efficiently and everything. So that's one thing. The second thing is analog, the technology isn't really good for emerging products. So what I mean by emerging product is a new one, so where you really only make about 50 because you want to see. Let's go back to the microbreweries. You don't go make a whole lot of that beer until you make some, and then you use it for trials and people decide and say, yeah, this is really good and we can sell a lot of this. So that's an emerging product that you don't want to invest a lot in packaging and a lot in inventory until you know you've got a winner. And the last or something on the tail end of that is an end-of-life product. So you've got end-of-life products that you don't know how many you're going to sell. It's really falling off. It's really trailing off each month. So by going to digital printing, you would just print the packaging for what you sold, and you have no way to predict that. And you don't want to order a lot of boxes, say 5,000 more, and you only sell 2,000 more, so now you're throwing 3,000 boxes away. So for emerging products, end-of-life products, this is very good technology for that. And then, of course, the other reasons, we're really just summarizing here. We've already talked about this a lot, but it's the personalization, the lot codes, the barcodes, any type of variable data you can add right on the spot at the last minute. You get much shorter lead times. You can print 4-color, which, with analog process, most of them are single color or 2-color. If you go to 4-color, it has to be run through twice, increase the cost, and you could have some registration issues. So you can economically print short runs. It reduces, there's a lot of cost reductions, whether it's inventory, labor, so on and so forth, a lot of different areas there. It does decrease your waste and obsolescence. It typically improves the quality of your graphics because it's very high resolution, in this case 1600 dpi. You minimize inventory, you no longer have minimum order quantities, no labels required, so you print everything you need on the box, and you can do it just in time. And here's a couple of different examples, medicine or something for a pet. There's another thing. Here's a steakhouse, a box. Some of you may not be familiar, but for instance, there's a shoe company out there, and I think it's called Tom's. And every time you buy a box of shoes, they send shoes to a child in underdeveloped countries and everything. And I know personally, my wife buys 2 or 3 pairs just because she's providing shoes for others. So in this case, the shoe could be generic like any other, but what if they started actually putting the picture of the child you're providing shoes for? What a connection between the customer and getting to see the face of the child that they're actually going to be providing a pair of shoes for. Pretty special. So I think that pretty much covers everything. I'm sure some people may have some questions and everything, and I think we already opened it up to that, Alicia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been monitoring the Q&A too, and it looks like we already have a few questions coming in, so we'll go ahead and get started with that. But go ahead and continue to send them in if you guys have any questions. So going back to the ease of use for the machine itself, one user wanted to ask, how easy is the machine to operate? Kind of wondering if there's any special training required.
Right. Well, that's a good question. If digital is new to you, it can be a little scary and daunting. In this particular case, our particular printer, when it's delivered, you roll it out of a crate, and within about 2 hours, it's ready to print. And we spend 2 days on site training you how to use the printer, how to use the software, how to maintain the printer. And actually, at the end of the first day, we're actually, printing jobs. So on this scale, I mean, you could buy a lot more expensive, much larger digital equipment. But the equipment that we're talking about here, like I said, it's a little harder to use maybe than a desktop printer, but really within 2 days, most of our customers with that training and everything, they're printing their own boxes. That doesn't mean they're not going to have questions, over the next couple of weeks and stuff like that, but literally at the end of the day. In fact, you saw in one of the slides earlier, All Sports, they said they were printing their boxes at the end of the first day. So we think it's pretty easy to use, and we're there for the training and the follow-on support. So,
yeah, no, that's awesome. It's really great. Okay, here's another really great question too as well. So thinking about the machine, and when people start to think about, where they're actually going to put this big piece of equipment, where do you think, how well does the printer work in a manufacturing environment? Does it require a clean room, or what type of environment do you see this machine sitting in?
Right. Well, that's a good question too. And what I would tell anybody, whether it's our printer or a different printer, a couple of things to keep in mind is with inkjet, you do need the environment. You do need to be concerned about how clean it is. I wouldn't say that this particular product needs a clean room, but you do have to kind of watch humidity, and that's true of any inkjet technology, that the humidity needs to be between 50 and 80%. But we've got customers using these printers, as I said earlier in my presentation, literally in the warehouse by the back door. And it does depend on, forklifts driving by and dirt and dust and wind blowing into a big roll-up door and all of those types of things. But our customers are using them out in warehouses. In certain cases, they have a little bit different or a little bit dirtier environment. Even in the warehouse, they'll put like a canvas tent over the area, create a room versus sheetrock or whatever, just to keep some of the dirt and dust away from the printer. But a clean room is absolutely not required. It would improve print quality in a lot of cases, but not required.
Perfect. That's awesome. And another great question that came in, and really looking at the system or the software inside of the machine as well, what type of files can users print?
Okay, good question. The software will basically accept almost any type of file, whether it's a JPEG, a PIC file, a TIFF, or whatever. But what's really obviously common for most people is they create a file and they create a PDF and they send it. And we can definitely take a PDF. And so if you've got the image of your box and it's in a PDF, you would simply send it to our software, and we pull that PDF in. And if everything's ready to go, then you simply hit print, and it prints the image and the data and everything in that PDF file directly to the box. So it doesn't get much easier than PDF files.
Very cool. No, and that's really great to hear too. So looking at the creative side, someone was asking, how does someone design the box graphics exactly? Are they using Illustrator or maybe CorelDRAW or Photoshop or box style lines? Creatively, what are these users using?
Again, whatever a customer feels comfortable with, our software will, you're using those different digital applications, so any of those can be used to create a box. I would say what's typical is Illustrator to create die lines and perfs and the die cuts, in a box or whatever. But you could use other applications, so that's not a limitation at all. It's just really whatever you're most comfortable with and whatever you think is easiest to use. And then once you create that file, like I said, you save it as a PDF, and it's that file out of Illustrator that you're sending to the software on the printer. So the software on the printer will really accept, even if you sent a file out of CorelDRAW or Illustrator or InDesign or anything like that. It's just whatever the customer feels most comfortable to do their box design.
Very cool. Okay, well, I think those are all the questions we have today. And as you guys continue, after this webinar has ended, you guys will be receiving a recording of the webinar and also a link to download a free white paper. So all the information that went over today during the webinar, you can be able to read that too. So definitely check out for that. And if you continue to have questions, just go ahead and feel free, if you're looking at the machine and want to have a more constructive conversation about it, you can go ahead and reach out to the Xante team at xante.com. That's XANTE.com. Or maybe if you have a few more questions about the inkjet technology, you can go ahead and email or reach out to Memjet2 at memjet.com. That's MEMJET.com. So I think we're going to go ahead and get out of here a little bit early. We definitely didn't want to take too much time here, but I think we went over a lot of really great information. And we definitely appreciate, Mark, you joining on too and, sharing your expertise.
Well, it was my pleasure, and Alicia, I appreciate Memjet co-hosting it with us. And as Alicia said, if you have any questions, our goal is to help you make a good buying decision whether digital printing, your packaging is the right fit for you. So if our product's not good for you, hopefully we can answer your questions and maybe point you in the right direction.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys all for joining us today. We really appreciate it.